What's up, you guys? This is Alex here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 10 most expensive cities to live in America based on monthly rental costs, and why these particular cities have topped the list as of 2019, and of course, the pros and cons of living in each city. And let me go ahead and just preface this by saying I'm actually currently in a library right now, so I'm trying to talk a little bit quieter than normal, but it's hard for me because I'm always so high energy all the time. So let's just get into it. All of these cities have many pros and cons, and I have not particularly been to each city on this list, although I have been to some of them. However, I've also done a lot of research, and as a student of real estate and economics, I'm always studying why certain areas drive higher prices and why they attract higher income skilled individuals. Let me also say that I got this information from various sources online. So if you think I may be wrong about one of these cities or perhaps the order that they should be on the list, just go ahead and drop a comment down below and we'll start a discussion about it. The official list that I ended up going with was actually from fortunebuilders.com. And I also recommend you guys checking out that website. They have a lot of great content. And this list is comparing the average rent of a one-bedroom apartment in each of these cities. So the list may be a little bit different if you're talking about single-family homes or larger dwellings. Again, this is going to be comparing one-bedroom apartments and the average monthly rent in each city. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Number 10, Miami, Florida. It is no secret that Miami is one of the most desirable places to live and visit in the United States, and even with the exit of LeBron James back in 2014, Miami still remains one of the most expensive cities to live in America, with the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment coming out to around $1,800 even. I read quite a few articles on this topic, and to be honest, I had no idea of just how big of an issue Miami's high rent had become when you compare it to the lack of wage increases with the higher rent prices. In 2015, just a few years ago, it was ranked the worst place in America to rent a home when you calculate average rent costs versus average wages. Miami has always been a hotspot for tourists, which immediately gives landlords the leverage of being able to charge higher rents, since it has the brand of a paradise beach city that most people want to be. But when you really look into it, there has not been a tremendous amount of industry growth or transformation in the past decade, yet rents continue to rise. I believe this is simply a reflection of overall rents and real estate values increasing in the nation as a whole over the past decade. However, there is hope for Miamians as construction of new condos in the area is absolutely skyrocketing, with 11,000 new condos due to be completed in just the next 24 months. With this increased competition between landlords, rents are sure to drop or at least level off over the next decade, so keep your head up, 305. Number 9, Seattle, Washington. The Pacific Northwest may not have the sunshine and the beaches that South Florida has to offer its residents, but the city has grown tremendously in industry over the past decade. With the massive growth of companies like Amazon and Boeing operating their headquarters out of Seattle, the city has attracted many new high-wage earners, which in turn has allowed landlords to jack up rents all over the city. The average price for a one-bedroom apartment in Seattle is currently right around $1,900 per month even. Number 8. San Diego, California. This should come as no surprise, as most people are aware of the beauty of San Diego and just how many people want to be there. San Diego may be the most well-branded beach city and vacation spot in all of America, and rightfully so. The beaches are beautiful, the women are beautiful, and few people would turn down the opportunity to stay in San Diego. The interesting thing is that even though San Diego may be the most attractive city to live in all of California, when you take into account the quality and enjoyment of life, meaning the best weather, the least amount of traffic, and overall the most pleasurable place as a whole, it's actually the cheapest of the 5 California cities that are on this list. That's right. 5 of the most expensive cities to rent in America are all in California. And I'll bet a couple of them may just surprise you, so stay tuned. San Diego's average rent price for a one-bedroom apartment comes out to right around $1,950 per month, which in my opinion is a pretty good deal considering everything San Diego has to offer, as well as the increasing opportunity in the area. Many companies are relocating to San Diego, specifically in the tech industry, and wages are pretty on par with other expensive cities. You can make pretty good money in San Diego, and the rents are surprisingly still affordable. Number 7, Washington, D.C. Again, this should come as no surprise as Washington D.C. is another very desirable spot to live in America. The city is pretty cutthroat in terms of opportunity offered since it's the number one spot for any political science major to plant their roots. But because government jobs, especially more sophisticated government jobs per se, tend to pay pretty well, DC landlords do have the leverage of being able to command these higher rents than other major cities. Also, when you combine that with the fact that DC has a very high volume of college students, with a total of 20 different colleges and universities located just inside the DC limits, that's obviously also going to command higher rents. As you may or may not be aware, student housing tends to run significantly higher than your average single-family residence, since college students and young people tend to treat units with a little more disrespect than folks that have a little bit more life experience. Since landlords know that college students are going to pretty much destroy their apartments, they have the leverage of being able to charge significantly higher rents, which in turn amplifies the average rent for an apartment throughout the entire city. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Washington, D.C. currently stands at around $2,100 per month. Number 6. Oakland, California. This one surprised me a little bit because I grew up in the Bay Area, and Oakland has always been known as the dangerous slums of Bay Area per se. Most people associate Oakland with a lot of poverty and low-income wages, as well as a lot of crime. However, ever since the prices in San Francisco have absolutely skyrocketed, again, stay tuned for the rest of this list, many middle-class folks that earn a solid salary or wage have been forced out of San Francisco and over the bridge into Oakland. This has created a lot of growth in the upper middle-class housing market and has allowed Oakland to clean itself up some to create room for higher-income individuals, people that can't quite afford to live in San Francisco but are far above the poverty line. Since Oakland is right in the heart of the Bay Area, much of the tech money that has flowed into Silicon Valley and San Francisco has now begun to flow into Oakland, and rents have increased significantly. Oakland has a lot of landmass, and although there are still many areas of the city that are impoverished, we have seen many neighborhoods pop up that are suited for higher income individuals and tech workers throughout the Bay Area. That and the rise of Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors since 2015. And just because I'm still sad about it, RIP Kevin Durant. The current rental rate for a one-bedroom apartment in Oakland currently sits at around $2,350 per month. And that ain't no chump change. Number 5, Los Angeles, California. You might be surprised to see that LA is not on the top 3 of this list, since everybody that knows anybody knows that LA is absurdly expensive to live in. Los Angeles is probably home to more diversity and more industry than any city in the world, and the Hollywood brand will continue to create a brand around LA that makes it one of the least affordable places to live in America. We've all known someone, or at least heard the story of the wannabe actor who sells everything he has to move to Hollywood and after 3 months ends up on the streets because he was not prepared for the high cost of living in LA. Los Angeles has always been expensive and probably always will be, with industries ranging from entertainment to fashion, tech, finance, and a surprisingly growing aerospace scene. There will always be more people wanting to chase their dreams in the City of Angels than the city limits can possibly hold. This is why I believe Los Angeles will always be one of the most expensive rental markets in America, and the current rental price for a one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles sits right at around $2,420 per month. Number 4, Boston, Massachusetts. Boston is one of the 2 major hubs on the northeast coast. Not only is it home to many different industries, but it is also home to more than 30 different colleges and universities, such as Boston College, Boston University, Northeastern, and of course, Harvard and MIT, which are just right next door in Cambridge. As I mentioned when speaking about Washington, D.C., student housing tends to command higher rents since college kids tend to be a little rowdier than pretty much every other demographic. That and pretty much all students are renting, since they almost definitely do not have the financing to afford to buy anything. So the city is forced to provide rentals to all of these students, which of course is great news for landlords. But Boston also has one of the highest barriers to entry for home ownership, with home and apartment prices skyrocketing over the last decade. This means more people that would have otherwise bought something in the city are forced to continue renting. Lastly, let's talk about the traffic. Since the mid-2000s, traffic in Boston has gotten exponentially worse, with a large percentage of Boston workers commuting more than 90 minutes from surrounding areas to and from work every single day. Because of this increase in traffic, many workers that would probably prefer to own a home in the suburbs are now choosing to rent closer to the city to avoid the more than 3 hours that they would have had to spend in the car if they were living in the suburbs. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Boston currently sits at around $2,450 per month. Number 3, San Jose, California. This one will be quick because it is similar to Oakland in a sense that it is not necessarily the nicest area to live. However, San Jose is in the heart of Silicon Valley and is home to thousands of tech startups and tech behemoths, including Apple, Google, Facebook, Yahoo, which are all right outside of the San Jose city limits. Most of these startups are heavily backed by deep venture capital pockets, and because there is so much competition for finding talent in this area, companies are paying employees significantly higher salaries than these same employees would make pretty much anywhere else in the country or in the world. And because of this, landlords are finding it very, very easy to raise rents each year at an astronomical rate. The current rent for a one-bedroom apartment in San Jose is currently sitting at an average of around $2,490 per month. Number 2, New York City, New York. Surprised not to see New York City number 1 on this list? For years, New York City has been the most expensive rental market in the country, with people paying astronomical prices for tiny spaces. We all know the story of the highly paid finance guy who struggles to keep up with the rent for his 400 square foot little studio apartment in the heart of Manhattan. New York City is home to endless different industries, and pretty much everybody has dreamt about moving there at some point in their life. Particularly 20-somethings, I would imagine. I mean, come on, we all want to pack our bags and find our own version of our Ross, Rachel, Joey, Phoebe, Monica, and Chandler. It just looks too appealing not to try, right? But before you load up the car, keep in mind that the average price for a one-bedroom apartment in New York City is $2,750 per month. And this includes the cheaper areas to live in, like Brooklyn and Queens. If you're looking to live in Manhattan, you better add an extra few $100s to that monthly budget. New York City is expensive and always will be. Okay, so moving on to number 1 here, and I think I've hinted at this a few times, and I think you might be expecting it, but the most expensive city to rent an apartment in America is currently San Francisco, California. But are you ready to hear just how much more expensive San Francisco's rental market is than every other market on this list? Well, here it goes. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the California Northern Hub is currently $3,500 per month. That is just absolutely absurd. As a kid from the Bay Area, I have many friends that have now graduated school and have been living/working in the city for the last several years. And I know how much they're paying, and it's absolutely breathtaking. Nowhere else in the country will you find landlords commanding prices like these, and people signing on the dotted line without even blinking an eye. I have a friend who lived in the city for years and was paying $2,100 for a 2-bedroom apartment. This must have been probably about 10 years ago, maybe somewhere between 2007 and 2010. Then it must have been somewhere between 2012 and 2014, 2015. His landlord notified him that his rent was going to be raising the following year. This is pretty normal, and my friend didn't really think anything of it. But then he got notified of just how much his rent would be raising. His little 2-bedroom apartment that he was shelling out $2,100 per month for was now being raised to $5,000 per month. I mean, that is jaw-dropping, to say the least. That is a absurd increase for just 1 year in the city. That is more than doubling the rent in 1 year. Crazy. San Francisco's prices have been raised for probably similar reasons to Oakland and San Jose. Endless tech companies that have cash coming in from outside funding and are paying their employees very, very, very well. If you're working in the tech industry and you are not currently working in San Francisco or at least somewhere in the Silicon Valley, consider making the move, because seriously, it's absolutely crazy. The reason SF is so much higher than San Jose and Oakland is most likely due to the fact that not only is it overflowing with opportunity and high-paying jobs, but it was already a really desirable place to live. I mean, it's got lots of culture, lots of fun stuff to do, and is overall just a very well-branded city as a whole. So people wanted to move to San Francisco well before it became a tech hub, And now the tech boom has just given landlords another reason to just another excuse to jack up rents. Will this ever stop? I mean, like, ever? Many locals in the city of San Francisco are asking this question. I believe prices will fall sometime in the next 5 to 7 years once the economy suffers a small or maybe a big collapse, and these tech-funded companies that did not make profitability a priority will all go under. I believe San Francisco will always be an expensive city to live, but I don't think the rental rates. But I do think the rental rates will drop, and potentially drastically once many of the jobs from these venture-backed startups have dried up and people are forced to look elsewhere for work. So that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click the like button down below. And if you want to get notifications of more cool content like this, go ahead and click the subscribe button. But if you don't subscribe, could you at least click the like button? It would mean so much to me and help out so much. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Paris with a Dominican boy. Great head on her shoulder, she probably studied abroad. She transferred to Harvard from King's College in March. She says that I'm her favorite cause she admires the art. Michelangelo with the flow, Picasso with the bars. She's well put together like a piece by Gershwin. Renaissance style.